Isaiah says in the Old Testament. He says, remember, the former things long past, for I am God. God is speaking now through Isaiah. And there is no other. I am God, and there is no one like me. Declaring the end. This is what God does. He declares the end from the beginning. So the ancients before Jesus knew that God had the ability to predict the beginning from the end, rather, from the beginning. Now, interestingly, the New Testament writers had a very similar high regard for God's ability to do this. As a matter of fact, Peter writes it this way: as to this salvation, the prophets who prophesied of the grace that would come to you made careful searches and inquiries, seeking to know what person or time the Spirit of Christ within them was indicating as he predicted the sufferings of Christ and the glories to follow. In other words, New Testament authors were aware of the long tradition of prophets who were looking for, predicting, and pointing to the coming Messiah. Let me show you the definition of a prophet, according to Moses. It's a person who, quote, speaks in the name of the Lord. If the thing does not come about or come true, that is the thing which the Lord has not spoken. The prophet has spoken it presumptuously. If that's the case, you shall not be afraid of him. Moses tells us this in Deuteronomy 18, verse 22. What he's basically saying is that a prophet of God has to be 100% correct all the time. Nahum, for example, predicts the destruction of Nineveh, but he prophesies it just a few years before it actually happens. How about Isaiah? Isaiah predicts the destruction of Babylon. And that prediction occurs actually a lot earlier than the Nahum prediction. That's back about 150 years. Turns out that Ezekiel predicts the destruction of Tyre. Now, he prophesizes this about, actually pretty impressive, about over 150 years prior to it actually occurring. This is also true of Jeremiah. Jeremiah predicts the destruction of Edom, and he predicts it at actually a pretty decent clip ahead of when it actually occurs, almost 500 years before it occurs. Daniel, for example, predicts the end of the reign of Alexander the Great. He predicts also, by the way, that prediction is pretty far in advance of it actually occurring, over 200 years. And then he predicts the reign of the Roman Empire. And so now you'll see this prediction occurs over a much longer period of time, about 500 years again, prior to its peak. These four reliable informants point to the coming Messiah. Now, they are joined by a bunch of others. It's clear from the predictions that something is about to happen. Someone is coming.